In this video, I'm going to be explaining why we can have confidence that we'll be able to intervene using the test and tracking strategies that we have in place here at Bucknell, even if we're not fully effective at containing the infection. In the previous two videos, I first explained the epidemiological modeling that I've been doing to understand what might happen at Bucknell and to run simulations that might predict what different scenarios look like for us here on campus. In the second video, I demonstrated what it looks like if we have no containment of the infection on campus and how quickly it is that things get out of control and that we'll have to shut down the campus if we don't have any control of the infection. And then I explained how effective mitigation strategies can control the infection and we can get through the entire campus without any disruption of the situation here and without anyone getting seriously ill. However, we also need to plan for worst case scenarios and what might happen on campus if we're not able to fully contain the infection, and that's what I'll be explaining in the models in this video. So you can see here a situation where we've employed interventions in order to try to contain the infection, but we haven't successfully gotten the intervention to control the spread of the infection on campus. And you can see that the effective reproductive number is still above 1. And because it's still above 1, as new infections get introduced to campus, or the 5 initial cases that I'm estimating might be arriving on campus, those are allowed to spread in the campus population. And this might happen if we're not all being as conscientious as we could be with wearing masks, physical distancing, whenever we're outside of our homes or our dorm rooms or apartments. If we're maybe interacting more with people outside of our campus community than is strictly necessary, either by traveling or by going to locations off campus. And in any of these scenarios, we might end up with a reproductive number for the infection that's greater than 1. And as you can see in this model, this leads to the spread of infections on campus. And although it's quite a bit slower than when we didn't have any mitigation whatsoever, we still end up with a full-blown outbreak on campus in October in this model. So this is a scenario we need to be wary of, we need to watch out for. It might happen sooner or later than this, depending both on how effective our interventions are. You can see I've modeled it to be 30 to 40% effective. Or it might also be accelerated by maybe having increased numbers of exposures from off campus. So this imported case here, you can see if I modify it, it shifts the curve to the left if we're bringing in a new case every other day. You can see now we have an earlier peak of this population, of the population of infectious people on campus. So if we go back to our scenario here where we had an outbreak happening, how do we prevent this from getting out of control? How do we reestablish effective containment of this infection here on campus? And what I've modeled here is that we're testing every day any students that are showing symptoms, or also random subset of students, and we're able to estimate the number of infectious students at any given time. When we get to a point where over 1% of the students are positive, or the population at large is positive, we then will know that it's time to lock down the campus. At that period of time, we'll know that 48 hours earlier, because of the testing delay, we had to lock down campus, and we then come into this situation where we teach all of our classes remotely. We are are staying in our rooms, in our dorms, in our homes, except for coming out to get meals very carefully. And during this time, we're able to bring the infection back under control. My models suggest that we can do that within 10 days. Depending on how effective the lockdown is, it could even be slightly shorter than that. But then once we're done with that lockdown, we need to return to more effective interventions than we had prior to the lockdown, or else we just repeat this same scenario where the curve starts growing again at the same rate it was growing here before, and we cross this threshold yet again on a roller coaster. So once we've locked down, we need to switch over to more effective intervention. Now that might be pretty easy to achieve because people are going to be more motivated, I think, if we've had to lock down, to be conscientious and enforce these interventions 24 hours a day. Also, we may have identified some critical weak points in our interventions and addressed those during the lockdown. And at that point, we'll be able to be more effective after the lockdown. So this scenario helps show how by constant monitoring and vigilance of when students and faculty and staff are being testing positive, that we can reverse the course of an outbreak and bring it back under control without sending everyone home.
Happy to be joined today by Dr. Catherine O'Neill. She's the medical director here at Bucknell, and she's going to be answering some questions that we have about how to keep campus safe.
We are going to try very hard to do that, right? I don't use the word safe because I think that that's a word that has many different meanings to many different people, right? So what we are going to do is mitigate risk. And by mitigating risk, the more aggressively we all mitigate risk, the safer we will all be. So in addition to all of those other mitigating factors, earlier, the hand washing, mask wearing, social distancing, being aware of our symptoms and staying home when we're sick, we're also doing some sequential testing for our student population so that we can know when somebody is ill, even or infected by the COVID virus, and isolate them. We have amazing testing capabilities with the contracted company that we have. And we have folks on campus right now who are getting testing and will have results by the end of the day, which is really incredible. As far as testing capacity, this company has an endless testing capacity for our campus, is what has been quoted to me.
And I'm joined today by Kendall Garnett.
If we keep the number of cases below 1%, will we be able to lessen restrictions?
That's a great question, and I think that should be a goal, right? And if we do that, we would need to continue to keep the infection rate less than 1%. What I would recommend moving forward and what we decide to do will be to take a look at all the factors, what seems to be working best, and making sure that everybody stays on them, and then loosening up a little bit. So maybe we can get small groups together that we know have been tested and aren't leaving campus and are following all of the guidelines that could actually gather within a smaller distance and without face protection the entire time, or be able to play games that involve more than one person.
I hope you appreciated this third video in the series. The final video will be a question and answer session with both Dr. O'Neill and with Kendall, Bucknell biology student.